The following story contains instances of violence, gun violence, death, animal death, blood, and language which may be too much for some beings to endure. Listener discretion is advised. This is Queer Goal, an anthology of short queer horror stories written and produced by me, Adriana Oister, pronouns she, her, and they, them, with various tales of horror, suspense, mystery, and science fiction. I, in the role of the narrator, will introduce you to a diverse set of characters, each of whom trapped in their own hellish landscapes and teeth-clenching nightmares. How many of us have dreamed at one time or another to be able to wish on a shooting star, or even for a mystic entity trapped in a container to grant us our evermost desires? I'll have you know that such a sage does exist in this world, and in several others, and I'm about to share a story about them now. However, it should be noted that they cannot be held responsible for any mishaps which may occur as the result of a yearning. For if you should come face to face with Madeon during any occasion, as entertaining as they are, I would still advise you to walk in the opposite direction. But if you don't and instead strike up a conversation with them, make sure to be very keen and clear of mind, and well spoken too, because you may just get much more than you bargained for, and it may even come back to bite you and haunt you. I now present to you the deal with Madeon. Jason Jones kept eye contact with the older lady in front of him, darting his lively eyes only for a few moments onto the numbers on the computer screen and its connected register. His lips rounded into a genuine smile. $20.72 in change. Thank you for coming in today, Miss Nelson, he said, handing the money back to her in careful cupped hands. She plopped her canvas handbag down onto the countertop, pulling out a coin purse and popping it open. Thank you for being so patient with me today. I know I can be slow nowadays when it comes to things like picking out a pair of shoes. Nonsense, he said, as he placed the shoebox into a large plastic bag, covering it with another one for support. I loved every minute of talking with you today. The woman repositioned her purse strap across her shoulder, taking the plastic bag from Jason's hands into her grip. You know, with all the ugliness in the world today, I'm glad to know that there are kind young kids out there just like yourself. Jason walked around the counter, opening the door for her to exit. The little bell connected to it jingled. His fingers straightened his green vest and played with his gray plastic name tag. Thank you. That's nice to hear. And I hope to hear in the future about how your daughter loves her birthday gift. The woman shuffled through the doorway, giving him a small wave. Have a nice day. Jason waved back. Same to you, Miss Nelson. He watched her until she vanished past the crowded street corner. When he went back inside, he was met with two snarling faces. The smile on his own faltered. Hello, Mr. Barker, Mr. Peck, his voice going up an octave. Barker crossed his arms, staring down at Jason with his sharp blue eyes through his oval-lensed glasses, like a vulture on its prey. Jason Jones, do you realize how long you were just talking to that customer? Jason motioned towards the door with his thumb, trying to still his legs which began to shake. I was helping her find shoes for her daughter's birthday. We heard you talking about more than just shoes. When you're on the clock, you're on my time. Help the customer find what they're looking for, bring them out, and have them leave. Not take them out on a date in the process. I think she was just really happy to have someone to talk to. What about all the other customers that need assistance? Jason studied the shoe store through the corners of his eyes. They were the only people on the sales floor for the last few hours besides Miss Nelson. But aren't we supposed to make a connection with a customer? So Then we build a relationship with them, and they want to come back and spend more money. Barker pinched his nose and let out a disgusted sound. Ugh, I can't with you. It's embarrassing how much you consider people. You don't make any impact on anybody. That woman won't remember you or a thing you've told her, nor will anyone else who you laid that stupid smile of yours on. He pointed towards the back room door. You're off sales floor for rest of your shift. Since you care so much about other people, go do us a favor and do inventory in the back. You can do your crying while you're back there too. He walked away, leaving Mr. Peck standing in front of Jason. His black eyes glared at him. He laughed. You heard what Mr. Barker said. Get to work, you knight in shining armor. He followed Barker to the back of the store and out of sight. Jason's lips quivered as he pushed the door through to the back room, where an endless amount of shoe boxes filled with mismatched shoes waited for him on broken wooden shelves. He practiced his breathing until the stinging in his eyes dissipated. He hiccuped a few times, but he wouldn't allow himself to express any more emotion, Barker's words echoing in his head. He was too emotional, too much of a pushover, and internally wished he wasn't. Nobody cared for it. Out of the dark shadows of the room, a person drifted into visibility as if they walked through a cloud of fog. The rubber end of their black and white walking stick touched the surface of the tile floor with each footstep forward. They leaned themselves against one of the pillars, toying with the white bow tie round their neck. They were wearing a long black tailcoat with a shimmering silver shirt. The hair on their sides curled into devil horns. Poor Jason Jones, mocked for civility, taunted for his humanity. Jason dropped the clipboard, spinning around to face the person. I'm sorry, customers aren't allowed back here. The person flashed their eyes, which were completely black, except for white pupils which made Jason take a few steps back. Young man, I'm not here as a customer. I'm here on your behalf. A smile spread on their translucent face. Jason swore that two of the gleaming teeth were sharp fangs. Most normal introductions begin with a name, and hopefully pronouns. You can simply call me Mix Madeon. When it comes to pronouns, they and them will be just fine. Jason stuttered. How do you know my name? It's my business to know what I need to know, not much else. What I happen to know now is that you're Jason Jones, he and him, the young sales associate at the local shoe store who looks like they need a good old-fashioned pick-me-up. Pick-me-up? Mr. Jones, I have the power to change your life. Say the word and I'll make it happen. Change my life? What for? Why me? You ask a lot of questions and make not enough statements, Madeon said, looking Jason up and down with the whites in their eyes. Good sign of character for a human being. Let's just say I'm a somebody with a lot of power and abilities and plenty of time on my hands with a business quota to fill. So I travel place to place, realm to realm, and try them out on a few souls. You seem like one of those souls who would be good for some help. Jason shook his head. I'm sorry, but I don't want my life changed. What are you talking about? Do you realize that you're in the presence of something and someone very special? The chances of somebody like you encountering a ghoul like me is not even a death a dozen. Many people would love to be in your shoes. They snickered. Get it? Shoes? Because we're in a shoe store. Ha! They let out a laugh. I'm funny. I don't mean any disrespect. I'm only saying that I don't want my life changed. I'm grateful for what I have. I have a job that lets me talk with nice people. I have an apartment next to nice people. I have more than most. I think it'd be better to give to someone who really needs such power. Someone less fortunate than I. Maybe even give it to the world. Ah, I should have expected such a response from you. Madeon paused, stroking their cheek with their long finger. They snapped their fingers. Jason Jones, what I am gifting you with will change the world. What do you mean? There's an expression out there, I believe. I read it in one of the books of mine, that one person has the power to change the world. So if I were to gift you with such power, the world would be changed, would it not? I guess so. You say you want power to go to the less fortunate, to give it to the world, and just by what we have agreed upon, by me giving it to you, you would be giving it to all. You would be making an impact on everybody. Nobody would dare look down on you or sneer at your generosity. Madeon stepped closer, a hand on Jason's shoulder, and adjusted his vest. Just say the word, and we can strike up a deal. What kind of deal are you suggesting? As I said, to change your life for your benefit, to then go on and change the world. How are you going to change my life? Madeon paced in front of Jason, twirling the walking stick in their hand. Oh, just a tweak there and a tweak here. You'll still have that apartment and this job you seem to be so grateful for. Jason looked down at the dusty floor. If you say that giving me whatever power you're suggesting will change the world we live in, then I'll make a deal with you. Madeon jumped up on the balls of their feet. Excellent! They tapped their walking stick against the wall. A long scroll of paper appeared in their hands, every inch covered in inked text. Here you go, Jason Jones, they said, handing Jason the paper. I do all my deals and contracts, makes things much more legalized. They waved their hand. A pen appeared. They clicked it open. Just sign on the dotted bottom line. Everything else is simply what we've discussed. I was told never to sign a contract without reading it first. Time is ticking, Jason Jones. I can't wait for you forever. I mean, I could, but I'd rather not. When I sign this, I'll impact people. I'll help them. I'll help more, Jason said, taking the pen from Madeon's hand. Madeon stood still. Jason paused, the tip of the pen hovering above the line. He sighed, pushing it down, and wrote in his signature. The pen and paper disappeared. He glanced back at Madeon, whose expression was neutral. Okay, so what happens now? The corner of their mouth curled up. Let's just say that when you wake up tomorrow, you'll see the world in a whole new light. Madeon stepped back, twirling their walking stick in a circular motion in front of them. The walking stick was the last to vanish. Jason stared at the spot Madeon had been standing at, where dust particles floated in the air. A small smile caught his lips. A feeling of fluttering accomplishment enticed his heart. Whatever I've done, I know I did it for the greater good, he said aloud, picking up the packet of barcodes on the clipboard from the floor and walking back to work. Jason smacked open the store's door with his shoulder, a large bag held in his grip. He scowled, glancing his head back at the store's glass window display. It read, Chesterville Gun Shop. He walked forward a few feet, turning his head left and right, before slipping himself off the sidewalk and into the nearby alleyway. When he came out, the bag was no longer in his hand. His eyes examined each person's face who passed him. His hand rested inside his coat pocket, where there was now a large bulge. Something collided into his side. The something, a person, another man around his age, put his hand on Jason's forearm. I'm so sorry. Don't fucking touch me, Jason said, pushing his other hand into the man's chest. The man took a step backwards, staring at Jason with stunned eyes, before holding up his hands in a surrender and scurrying away. Jason huffed, storming down the path. He didn't stop until he got to the crosswalk, standing amongst a group of people whose heads were down staring at their cell phone screens, while his eyes were up and drilled into the lit-up traffic sign, with a red hand flashing a warning of halt. He tapped his foot, his eyebrows knitted, his mouth in a permanent frown. Stop him! Stop him! He heard. A flash of a golden dog rushed in front of him, dragging a brown leather leash against the pavement. A woman's voice cried out, Stop him, please! Jason kept his hands inside his coat pockets, squeezing the object inside. His eyes locked onto the dog barking and swishing his tail out in the middle of traffic, in a blue pickup truck that was speeding towards him. The crowd and the woman screamed at the animal. Her eyes welled up with tears, her hands in front of her like she was holding a prayer. The truck, going far faster than the speed limit, flew closer. The dog woofed at the commotion. A few good pedestrians sprinted out into the road. Jason stood like a statue among the chaos, his lips tight. In one quick second, the sight of the dog was flattened. The truck impacted the spot where the dog was positioned. The right front tire popped up from the bump that had rolled over. However, the truck didn't stop. Instead, the driver just zoomed away, unaware and uncaring of the death that he had caused. The barking had stopped. The onlookers gasped. Others screamed in panic, and others, like the woman, dropped to her knees and covered her tearful face with her hands. They all refused to look back onto the road. A crowd of people surrounded where the gold corpse laid. Cars stopped mid-traffic, drivers and passengers getting out to see for themselves. Jason tightened his fists around the object's handle in his pocket. "All of this over a dog," he said. Heads in the crowd turned to him. "There are stray animals all over this city. There's a fucking shelter or a guy selling dogs on each block. Just get a new one and move on." "Shut up, dude," a voice snapped. "Don't tell me to shut up," Jason said. A woman who was wearing a hijab approached him, and his grip on the object grew tighter. A finger rested against the trigger. "If you're not going to say or do anything constructive to the situation, just move along. Have a heart. Like any of you right now are doing anything that makes a difference. If she actually trained him properly and didn't let go of his leash, he wouldn't be dead." He glared at the scene once more, his mind in contemplation, before he pushed himself away from the crowd. "Fuck all of you. The dog is dead. It's called natural selection. Move on." He considered using the object he had hidden, held in his grasp in secret, but thought for the moment that what he had in store wasn't meant for those people. It was meant for particular individuals instead. He finished his travel, which ended in front of his employer, and he flung the door to the shoe store open. The bell attached belted out a strong ring. "This goddamn bell!" Jason ripped it off the door, where it jingled again as it hit the carpet flooring. "Jason!" Peck approached him with his meaty hands balled up into fists at his sides. Jason examined the sales floor. Besides Peck standing in front of him, there was a handful of customers looking at the displayed shoes. He wasn't interested in them, however. He didn't see Barker. He calculated that after his actions, his best course would be to exit out the back door, as the front door was much too obvious. "What is up with you today? You're 3 hours late, you didn't call or text, you're not in uniform, and you're acting like a psychopath. Mr. Barker is furious with you. Get off my ass, Rick. And while you're at it, stop kissing Barker's ass. You never had a thought in your life that didn't first come from his mouth." For a moment, Peck's mouth hinged open in disbelief, a bully in shock that his victim snapped back. But he soon caught himself. "I'd keep quiet if I were you." "Why? Why should I care what you or Barker think? You've always told me that I was pathetic, but I'm not the one that spent most of their life managing a retail store, especially as a lackey like you are. I at least have goals, more things to accomplish in life. This store is your life, and it's not even your store. You have no power over anything else in your life, so you come in each day rude as hell to everyone else just to make yourself feel better." Peck's face turned bright red. "I can't wait until he fires you." Jason ripped the object out of his pocket, pointing the assault-style handgun at him. Peck's face froze into fear. Jason smirked at him. "You won't be here to get the chance to see it." He fired the gun twice. 2 bullets flew out of the chamber and pierced Peck right in the chest. He fell backwards with a hard thud. Blood gushed out of his chest, through his green employee vest, and sunk into the fabric of the carpet. The store was tense and silent. Jason looked into the eyes of every customer. "Get the fuck out now, before I put bullets in all of your heads!" He waved the gun and moved himself away from the door. "Let's go! Get out! I'm only giving you half a minute, and be lucky that I'm considerate enough to give you that." They all ran out of the door in less time, knocking the bell around with the ambush of their feet. They screamed out into the streets. Barker bolted out of the back room, his eyes locked onto Peck's corpse. "What the hell have you—" "Shut up," Jason said. A bullet penetrated Barker's skull. Brain matter and blood sprayed out onto the walls and merchandise. His body collapsed like a rag doll. Jason kicked the cadaver repeatedly, shouting at the deceased man every insult he could possibly think of that described just how cruel the man was. When Jason stopped, he huffed, spitting on the body, and stared at the destruction that he had caused. Sirens blared in the distance. He swore to himself and escaped into the back room. He rammed his body into the back door and slipped out into the alleyway, only met with a dead end and a dumpster filled with reeking garbage bags. He ran out into the crowded street, the gun held up high into the air. The screaming of people was piercing alongside the sirens and the blasting of the gun. "Get out of my way," he breathed deeply, running faster as police cars were in his vision. He spotted a rundown building and rushed inside, ignoring the condemned sign on the rusted front door. The wooden floors groaned after each of his footsteps. He panted, locking the door from the inside before running up the rickety stairway, being mindful enough to avoid where steps were broken. When he got to the top floor, he wobbled over to the window, holding on to the dirty curtain as he took long, labored breaths. His eyes peeked out from the edge. Police cars lined up in front of the building, rifles at their hips. Tactical gear shielding their bodies as they screamed and advanced on the building. Fuck! You've really made a mess of things, haven't you, Jason Jones? Jason pointed the gun at his visitor with white eyes, pulling the trigger. No bullets came out. Mix Madeon wiped at their sleeves. You chose a gun with 12 rounds, all of which you've used up. I'm stunned that in your state you didn't choose a much larger weapon from the same store. You humans practically thrust machines of death into each other's hands. You remember Miss Nelson, the little old lady you helped yesterday? She's going to be so heartbroken when she clicks on her television set and your face pops on the screen with a death toll and murder weapon. She really appreciated you. Stop fucking talking! This is all your fault. You got me into this. I don't want you anywhere near me. You're unnatural. You're a freak. I don't know where you come from or what you are, but you need to get the hell out of here and back there and out of my life. Of course, you would leap right towards prejudice, but rather me than bouncing it on others. They said, "You signed a contract, Jason Jones. The only person that can be held responsible for your actions is yourself. And I have to say, killing others, a no-no, of course. But not having a single care about the life of an animal, a puppy dog? Shameful. What did you do to me? You came and fucked up my life, and I want to know what you did to the world to fuck me up so bad. Yesterday, you were much purer. Something you found time and time again to be mocked and berated for. You didn't want any gifts for yourself, but rather for those less fortunate, instead for a world seeping with sadness and rage. But things don't work like that. Mystical gifts don't change the world. It's the people in it who do. You wanted to change the world, and you didn't feel like the way you were could. I know that's why you signed off on the deal. So, I was left with no other choice but to take away that heart of yours. Your sensitivity, your empathy, your compassion, any care towards anything other than yourself. You knew that all of this would happen. You knew that this would happen to me. Oh, please. The people who claim to know everything are immediately the dumbest people in the room. I told you, I only know what I need to know. Now don't give me that look. It's actually quite common to have such things done to a human being. However, not by any powers, of course. but by others of your kind, by adults during one's adolescence, depriving a child of books, of love, of understanding. The crowd a person surrounds themselves with. After all, it is a rotten barrel which poisons its good apples. Lack of knowledge, small-mindedness, money, fear. It's a shame. The person you were was far more powerful than the one I see now. Most people knew that too. That's why they were so quick to punch out your glow. That contract, there has to be something in it. An escape from you, an escape from this. Madeon shook their head. I'm sorry. Things are beyond any control I could possibly have. There is no bringing life back. The only person who can change things from this point in time on is yourself. It makes me sad. I liked the person you were before, the stronger one. My only hope is that you may have learned a lesson from all this. On the first level, they both heard the door break down. Heavy footsteps against the hardwood. Police, we have you surrounded. Madeon turned one last time to Jason. That's my cue to bounce out of here. I must bid you goodbye, Jason Jones. Good luck. Madeon disappeared, waving at Jason. Jason, left with no other options, dropped his weapon. He held his shaking hands up as the door flung open. For the written version of the story you just heard and other Queer Goal originals, visit queergoalpodcast.com. The Queer Goal Podcast Anthology is an independent endeavor. If you enjoyed what you've heard, please consider leaving a review or rating and telling a fellow creature of the night about the show. Follow Queer Goal and me, Adriana Oister, Oister, on social media to stay up to date about the podcast and future projects. All links are in the show notes below, as well as other ways to support the show. Until next time, thank you for listening. And as a parting bit of advice, if you really do want to change the world for the better, the best place to start is with yourself.